All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to start up our next chapter, chapter 4, which deals with conditionals. Okay, conditional statements. Essentially, we're going to look at how computers make decisions based on input or based on values of variables. Okay, today we're going to look at the most basic type of conditional statements, just simple if statements. And then each lesson in this chapter will build on it, we'll add to it. We'll be able to make more and more complicated conditionals, and in turn have our programs make more and more complicated decisions. All right, so first off, what is a conditional statement? I'm going to say it is a block of code that is associated with a condition. Okay, like we said a second ago, when you think conditional statements, think if statements. And essentially how this is going to work is we're going to say if some Boolean condition, so we'll have some condition that we can test whether it's true or false. If that's true, we'll have some code to run, and if it's false, essentially we'll just skip that block of code and move on with our program. Okay, so the code will execute once if the condition is true. The code does not execute if the condition is false. That's our simple if statement. So again, what this is going to allow our programs to do is to make decisions, or technically we could say interrupt sequential execution of a program. So if our program is going along, following the arrows, doing step 1, step 2, step 3, and we get to this conditional statement, what we'll do is we'll evaluate the Boolean condition. If it's true, we'll go off to the side, run some chunk of code, do some action, and then continue with our program. If it's false, we'll just run right through it and continue executing. Okay, so visually that's how you can think of a conditional statement, kind of breaking up the flow and allowing your program to make a decision. All right, now we've said Boolean a few times. Let's remind you what we mean by that. Okay, a Boolean is any condition or variable that can be evaluated to true or false. Okay, so it could be a expression like this, 10 equals 10, which is true. Okay, or 90 is less than 80, which is false. Okay, or a variable could just flat out be a Boolean variable where we assign a value to true or false. Okay, so either of those would be an example of a Boolean condition we could evaluate. Now when it comes time to writing Boolean expressions, we'll use our relational operators. And here's the typical ones you'll use. Here's the ones on the Java exam. Now the big one will be the equal operator. Okay, this is what checks if x and y have the same value. Now, if I just had the single equal sign, Java wouldn't like that. Single equals is for assignment. It's the double equal sign for checking if values are equal. Okay, and then we have greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to operators. Okay, those work the way you'd think they'd work, just like they do in math class. And then our last one, our exclamation equal. This will be the not equal operator. This checks if x is not equal to y. It'll evaluate to true when they're not equal, false if they are equal. All right, so let's take a look at some if statements and kind of practice running through them, evaluating them, figuring out how they work. So simple in this case, let's say we have a variable int score gets 97. And for our conditional, we want to check if score is equal to 100. So that's where we have the score equals 100. If that's true, the code within these braces will run. If it's false, it'll skip it. So for this program, if I clicked run, what would happen? What would be output? Nothing. Okay, since 97 is not equal to 100, okay, this code would be skipped and nothing would happen here. Okay, in the next slide, we have the exact same thing, except for this time we'll set score equal to 100. Okay, so when I evaluate if score is equal to 100, that is true. Okay, so my condition is true. Therefore, the code inside the braces will run. When I run this code, it will output you win. And then if there is more code to this program, it would continue running through lines step by step after this condition. So next, let's take a look at how we can combine conditional statements to make more complicated decisions. And I'll actually show you a better way to do this in the next lesson, but we'll stick with the simple just if statements today. So we have a variable age, and let's set it equal to 43 to start off with. and then I have two conditionals right next to each other. One where age, if it's greater than or equal to 65, it's going to print time to retire. And then the other one followed by that is if age is less than 65, we'll say keep working. Okay, by stacking these conditionals next to each other the way I have them, I'm guaranteed that one of the two are going to run. Okay, reason for that is there's no gap between greater than or equal to 65 and less than 65. If I had a gap there, it's not necessarily going to run. But in this case, it will run. Okay, first condition will be skipped because age is not greater than or equal to 65. Second condition will run because age is less than 65. So when I run this code, we'll get keep working. All right, kind of same idea with our next example. This time we just have a Boolean value discount set equal to true. And then what I can check is if discount and if not discount. Now when we see just this if discount, that's the same thing as if discount equals true. Okay, you don't need the extra equal part when we're talking about just a Boolean value that's true. So what's going to happen here is as I run through this code, if discount, so in other words, if discount equals true, this code will run, discount is true, therefore my first line of code runs. Second line skipped if discount is false, if not discount, in other words, if discount equals false, this code would run. Okay, so the first conditional will evaluate to true, second conditional will evaluate to false. And again, since discount either has to be true or false, there's no other options. One of these two conditionals will run and be true. So with our basic conditional statement, we can have our computer make a single decision. Now, there's going to be some different ways we can make more complicated decisions, building off those basic conditionals. Now, one of those ways is going to be to do something called nesting conditionals, where I have an if statement within an if statement. Okay, and this example revolves around a method call, so we have some different return statements rather than just print statements. So let's figure out what is printed by a call to M7. Okay, let's take a look at what happens with that method. I'm going to plug in a 7, so n is 7 in this case. All right, if n is greater than or equal to 0, we're going to run what's inside the conditional. Now, if that was false, in this case it's true with m equals 7, but if that was false, this entire conditional, even the one on the inside, would be skipped completely, and we just return a 3. Okay, that'll be a common code design we'll have, is we'll have some kind of conditional happening. There'll be some stuff going on inside that conditional, but if it's false, we can just return and leave the function completely, or the method completely. Okay, so in this case, m is 7, so my first condition will be true. We'll go into the second condition. If n is greater than or equal to 10, again, we have 7, so this will be false. This code won't run here. We'll head straight to this return command. Okay, so again, this condition isn't going to run. We'll go straight to this return, which is why it's going to return a 2. Okay, because the first condition ran, but within that condition, the second one didn't run. We got the 2 here. Okay, homework for you in this lesson. We'll have a bunch of different examples to have you trace through some different method calls like this. Really test your understanding of when to run the conditional, when to skip it. All right, let's just talk about 2 more things quick before we set you free to practice this stuff. The first one I'm going to say is some bad coding form, but you still need to know it mainly for the AP exam. Okay, so what I could do is if I only have a single programming statement to run if my conditional is true, I can skip my braces completely. I could just say if condition, and then it doesn't even need to be indented, but I'd indent and do the single instruction. So that could be return something, that could be print something, it could be set a value. Okay, when you only want a single line of code to execute when the condition is true, you don't need the curly braces. Okay, this is not recommended. It can be difficult to read. It can lead to mistakes if you set it up wrong. Okay, you will need to see it on the AP exam, and the main reason for that is as they're trying to give you code on a sheet of paper with limited space, this is a great way to save space. Okay, if your actual programs are right where you can scroll up and down the page, hundreds of lines, you're not worried about space. But again, on the AP exam, you are worried about space, or the AP is at least fitting things onto a page, which is why you'll see this. That's the main reason you'll see it. Okay, not good form. I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, but you do need to see it, and we will throw you some practice problems at you just so you get used to it. All right, then last thing for you, some common errors when you go to write conditionals. Okay, just some things to look for when your compiler says no dice, won't work. Number one is going to be putting a semicolon after the Boolean condition. Okay, shouldn't have that there. It's a lot like writing a method or constructor where you'll have the parameter list followed by parentheses with no colon afterwards. Okay, so never put a semicolon before a brace with conditionals, and in general, pretty much anything in Java. And then the other one is using the single equals rather than the double equals for checking for inequality. Again, single equals is for assignment, double equals is for checking equality. Okay, never use the single equal to compare values. Okay, two common mistakes as you start writing your own conditionals. All right, there you go. That is how simple conditionals work in Java. Like I said, we'll build on that throughout each lesson, show you how to make more and more complicated decisions. But for now, let's get some practice with the basics, with the simple if statement. So start going on the homework, start working through the coding exercises, crank some code out, and like usual, if you're getting stuck, let us know. We're here to help you out.